GoBundance community. I'm Jamie Gruber, host of the GoBundance podcast, and today we interviewed GoBundance brother Sergio Altomare. He is an incredible guest, and you're going to get such value out of this interview, like how he fell into an RV business, and he'll go into some detail about renting RVs and his philosophies around that, why he thinks storage units are the better investment, and why he liquidated some multifamily in order to get into storage units. He's going to talk about life longevity, his views on how long he thinks he's going to live and why, which is a really, really interesting discussion. He'll talk about meditation, health, and a lot of it boils down to his ability to make a decision and then stick to that decision. Once he decides, he goes. You'll get a real clear feel from him throughout this entire interview. And toward the end, you got to stick around. He talks about the ability to maximize every year of life and what that means to him. So check it out, like, subscribe, make sure you hit the notification button and leave us a comment. Let us know what you think about it. But until then, enjoy this interview with Sergio. What's up, GoBundance community? This is Jamie Gruber, guest hosting for Pat Hyben on the GoBundance podcast. And today I'm welcoming in a good friend of mine in the GoBundance community. He's a GoBro, he's an investor, and a bit of an RV connoisseur. We'll talk about that. Sergio Altomare, great to see you, brother. How are you?
I'm doing awesome, Jamie. Thanks for having me. Thanks for everything you do, and excited to be on, brother.
I appreciate that. You and I have connected a couple of times, so I was excited about seeing you on the calendar for this one. Give us the background of you. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up? What'd you do? Give us the story of Sergio.
Cool. So I got a pretty interesting background. I'm on my second career right now. So going back, born and raised in Philadelphia, South Philly, for anybody who knows the city, blocks away from the sports complex. Born in 76, to 78, my family decided to pick up and move to Italy. Lived in Italy for 2 years. I'm sorry, I said 78. I was actually 6 years old, so it was 82. Picked up and moved to Italy. My parents are both Italian immigrants. Lived in Italy for 2 years, did first and second grade there. Interesting part about that was, even though I could speak Italian going to Italy, by the time I came back, I forgot the English language, so I had to learn it again. It was not as bad as it sounded. I mean, when you're that young, it kind of comes back pretty quick. I grew up just Italian hardworking family. Mom was a seamstress, dad was a tailor. I went to all of the worst public schools in the city, got an internship working for the Federal Reserve when I was 18. 22 years later, and I had worked my way up from a file clerk to all phases of technology. Left in 2017 after what was started as a side hustle in real estate with my wife and I, turned into a full-blown business. We started with buying properties for our own personal investments, which later turned into a syndication business and property management business. 2016, towards the end, we found out that my now wife is, or she was my wife then, but we were dating when we first started everything. She was pregnant. She quit. She worked at the Fed as well. She quit in 2016. I quit in 2017 and haven't looked back. I mean, it was, I made the mental transition going from what I call the, getting paid and spending, the income and spending versus generating wealth and investment mindset. It was around 2007, 2008. I was making a lot of stupid decisions with money, heavy in debt, just buying whatever I want on a credit card because I knew that I was getting paid well. And then made a shift. It was, I wouldn't say it was overnight, but it was in pretty rapid order. Got into investing in, multifamily, small multifamily, stock market, later Bitcoin. I've done very well in Bitcoin and crypto since. And now we're syndicating self-storage. We moved away from multifamily and we've grown our company. We have over $30 million assets under management, going on 6 self-storage facilities, 150 units in the residential commercial space. Just started an RV rental business as a kind of a side project. I had some money sitting around and just that's what I like to do, is just start businesses. And, now my focus is continuing to grow and compound wealth, and, filling in the blanks and kind of amplifying the parts of my life that I think are going to be most critical long-term: my relationships, health, mindset, and just general outlook, giving back, gratitude, a lot of the things we know and talk about in GoBundance. So I got all of my pillars. Being in the business arena and personal development, that's the kind of stuff that I think comes easy for us, because it's, we're drawn to that challenge. That's that game. But overall, now it's about, how do I get to be that, overall well-rounded individual, and kind of recognize the blind spots in life to be the most well-rounded and living life to the fullest. That's where I'm at right now.
What happened in 2007, 2008? You said it was a slow transition, but often if you go from, what did you call it, income and spend, to maybe the mindset, at least, of wealth generation, what happened? Was there an event? Was it I don't know. What was it that maybe precipitated the beginnings of that change, if anything?
So the interesting part of that was, it was more of, I always like to say that I like to learn. You always learn from your own mistakes. I also like to learn from other people's mistakes, right? In 2007, 2008, we all know what happened, right? It was a great recession, right? I had a stable job. I had one of these real cushy jobs, the benefits, the whole big, nice income. But working for the Federal Reserve, that was the Fed was kind of what supported the government and supported the economy at that time. So it was hammered home what that recession meant, when it came to the banking industry, failed banks, job losses, unemployment, all of that. I got to the point where it's like, holy shit, look at me. I'm making all this money, right? But yet I'm living a silly lifestyle. I don't want to be 65, 67 and worrying about where I'm getting money from and living off of Social Security and pensions and that kind of thing. So kind of like just, made me wake up and realize you need to make some adjustments. And at that time I had like $50,000 in credit card debt. I can make the payments. I was getting paid well. I don't remember what my salary was, but it was, near six figures. But it just was like, this is stupid. This is silly. I read Dave Ramsey's book on whatever it's called, on get rid of debt. And, and even though, like, it was, he's got that whole game plan, I make a decision and I'm 100% like full bore ahead. So for me, getting out of that debt, I was able to do it pretty quick. I've always been money savvy. So I was able to kind of like, all right, take a quick loan out of my 401k, pay this off, restructure this, get more into investing. And so I made that transition. And once I did, then I adopted this mentality that I was getting raises and promotions regularly, right? To the point where, climbing that rank, I wouldn't say it was easy, but it was happening at a good clip. And so I got used to that. And so what I made a decision then was to say, all right, well, in most cases, the typical, traditional lifestyle is you get a promotion, you get a raise, your lifestyle adapts to that new income, right? So I made a decision at that point where I was going to say, you know what, I'm going to flip the script. If I'm going to get a 10% increase or a promotion with a 10% increase, I'm going to also reduce my expenses by 10%. So my objective was to continue to keep widening that gap, right, to income, savings, and ability to invest. And to this day, I want to say it's a magic formula, but having that mentality that it's like every time I get a windfall, I don't want to get fatter, right? I want to get thinner. How do I clip a couple more things? What's that $5 expense that I have occurring on my credit card? Get rid of that shit. Get rid of this, get rid of that. So it's giving yourself even bigger promotions and raises.
I love it. When did that, so you were like kind of dialing down, you mentioned, but it took a little while to sort of get to the point where you were leaning into the new mind. The mindset shifted in 07, 08, but took a little bit to probably see the lifestyle shift completely. The debt gets paid off and you're kind of off and running. How long was that? And what was a point at which you felt like you would kind of tip the scales in the favor of who you were now becoming?
So I don't think it was, probably I would say, a year to 2 years. And what I also did was I decided to, I got really big into psychology, right? And you know, we probably talked about this. I've been meditating for a long time, right? And so I started getting into psychology. I had some anxiety issues in my mid-20s and things that brought me to understanding, you know, what about mindfulness and you know, really being able to stay focused or get focused. And so from that vantage point, I also knew that if I see a chunk of money in my bank account, it's got a mental effect that says, hey, you can go buy this, you can do that. So what I did was I started to hide money from myself, right? And the way I did that is I started opening up accounts in all kinds of things, right? E-Trade, 3 to 5 different brokerage firms, started buying, foreign currency, gold, eventually, you know, crypto. So what I started to do was I don't want to see that money, right? And so as long as I can deploy that money in different places that are going to be generating more money, then it really helped that objective. And I didn't feel like my objective was to make sure that my lifestyle, I kept myself in check. And then I realized, you know, I'm an investor here, right? I mean, even to this day, I mean, I bury my head in books and anything. It's like my theory, and I don't remember where I didn't make this up, but I heard it somewhere and it stuck with me. Every dollar has a job, right? Every dollar you make, it's either working for you or against you. And so if you look at the dollars in your wallet or dollars in your account or your credit as an employee, how do you make them productive? And if you make your dollars productive, hey, you got an army behind you, and you know, the wealth, the compounding wealth is a real thing, and it's you know, whether it's the rule of 72, whatever you want to believe in, it's true and it's magic.
How does the Fed come into this now? So you're 18, going back a little further. You kind of made that. You kind of went through it quickly. You were going to some pretty, you know, some local public schools. I was going to say cruddy schools, but whatever. I'm sure they weren't the greatest experiences from an education standpoint. And then suddenly you're at the Fed. How does that happen? How did you win the internship or earn the internship at the Fed?
So I could tell you offline how I got the job, right? As an intern, right? It started as a summer intern, and it wasn't. We'll just leave it at that, right? So I get the job, right? And at that time, I was a likable kid, right? So when I got the job, when I got the interview at the Fed, I interviewed with the right people. That's all this might be a cute kid. He can, come in and help. And it was getting into an environment that made me realize that was a professional environment. And I got exposed to people that predominantly had college degrees and were highly professional, and getting exposed to them and being able to leverage the collective knowledge and wisdom. I mean, everybody, when you're an 18-year-old in a company, 20-year-old, everybody wants to share advice, right? And so I leveraged that, and I eventually got into IT support. And as in IT support, you get to visit with everybody, right? Because I do desktop support. And so when I'm in front of somebody's computer, and at that time waiting 20 minutes for the damn computer to reboot, you strike up conversation. Somebody's teaching you about investing, and I'll never forget the first time I heard about DRIP and dividend reinvestments, and so it's kind of like just sparked my curiosity, but also made me realize that, hey, I'm not exactly an idiot here, right? I understand what these people are talking about, and it motivated me to want to work hard. I mean, I always worked hard. That was never an issue. The effort was always there. But even to this day, like, joining GoBundance and being, around people like yourself, it's like, man, I didn't think that I could play in this game or this stadium or whatever. And now I'm like, oh, I can hang with these guys, and it's motivating, it's exciting. And so for me, I ended up in IT, and I've always been curious, a tinkerer. My nights and weekends were spent ripping apart computers and putting them back together. So for me, it was like getting paid to work a hobby. And so the climbing the ladder and doing all that came easy. I don't know if I would say that it was easy, because nothing's easy, but it was natural because I was just drawn to it. And so, and working for a large organization and being in IT, I was able to have different jobs. Over the course of 22 years, I had over 10 jobs, right? I moved to different departments, different divisions, different forms of IT, information security, project management, enterprise architecture, you name it. So that exposure, I mean, I'm like a sponge, right? And so that's really how that kind of played out. Also, now it's helpful to understand as my businesses and companies growing, to understand, successful organization and strategic planning and establishing goals. Not to say that they did that right, because Fed doesn't do that right. But anyway, but now that I can, do that now in my businesses, I've learned. You learn what to do, but you also learn what not to do, and that's there's a lot there.
People I just exited my W-2, and a lot of people asked about or a lot of people, the first thing they say to me is like, oh man, I can't wait to do that. And it's like, I get that. I get that sentiment, right? Because there is a sense of freedom. We were just talking about before we recorded, for me, there's a sense of wow, I can structure things my way. I don't have to show anybody that I'm doing anything, right? It's my life. I get to do it my way. But at the same time, I say to a lot of people that I think the healthy mindset that I had in eventually leaving my W-2 started years prior, which was I worked for a large corporation, a successful corporation. There are systems, processes, not all done perfectly to your point, but take that time and learn it. At least understand what's right, what you don't like, and what you would do differently. But if you just sort of blinders on and saying, I don't want to be here, I don't want to be here, I can't wait to get out of here, you're looking past a treasure trove of opportunity to learn, in my opinion. And like you, I don't think I had a job more than 2 years in a row in my career, my 21 years at the company. So right. I just absorbed what I could and hope to apply it as I go forward. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and a lot of it is really taking advantage when you working for a company that has resources and provides resources to employees. I worked around a lot of people that, I got to go to this training, I go to this training. I'm like, bring it on. Right. You're helping me grow. Why would I ever refuse that? And whether or not, some of it was terrible, like some of the compliance stuff that is just checking boxes. Some of that is not the greatest, but you're in a, in a place to learn. And so you take advantage. I always operated with a chip on my shoulder, and it probably goes back to my parents that, just their work ethic. But if you operate out of a place of continuous learning, continuous education, I'm not just contributing to the company. I'm building my skill set. I'm building my knowledge. I'm building my wisdom. So when it came time to leave, and I had worked in all these different divisions, all these departments around so many people, I had knowledge of so many different things, even just the inner workings of the Fed, if you will, that just give you that little bit more confidence that number one is you have a lot of knowledge. And the second part is you have the ability to learn it. And that's the key part, right? Because you always got to continue to learn.
Makes sense. No, I love that. Let's flip to the end when you did exit your W-2. Flip to the end of, you interned at the beginning, you exited in 2017, I think you said. Were you one for one at that point? What I mean was, were you, in GoBundance ease, were you 100%, or had your businesses grown to the point where you were either covering your expenses and or making what you were making at the Fed? Or did you kind of take a little bit of a bet on you that, I'll take a step back, but you see steps forward? What was your exit like?
So it was probably a combination thereof, right? So I had the rental properties, and at that time it wasn't a big, it wasn't a big number. We had about a dozen units in total that were our properties. But I never took that money and spent it outside of reinvesting it in the business and buying more properties and whatever. So that wasn't money that I was counting on, right? When the day that I left, if I stopped everything, the net rental income would probably cover my mortgage, right? Probably cover my mortgage. So with that, right, the biggest expense we have in life was pretty much covered. It wasn't that I was counting on that, but it gave me at least that sense of comfort. But what I started to do, and it wasn't intentional initially, was I started to accelerate my savings. I talked about, my strategy of building gaps. So now I'm not spending as much. Like each paycheck, I get a lot more, right? So the day that I decided, and it really culminated in the span of 5 months where I went from my plan is a 7 to 10 year plan to a 5-month plan. And a big part of that was my daughter was born, my priorities shifted. I had climbed the ladder to get around this table of, executives and leadership, and my role itself was like in strategy. But I wasn't working with people that where strategy was, I wouldn't say welcome, it's probably a wrong word, but the strategy working with a bunch of IT guys, it doesn't always align one-to-one.
Beating your head against the wall a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wasn't getting the job satisfaction. I was kind of always a boots on the ground, let me get shit done kind of guy. So I didn't have that satisfaction. But when I made that decision, well, this is the end is closer than needs to be closer, right? I had built up coffers, and I tell people now that it's building that bridge, right? So I stopped work here, right? There's kind of like this moat of uncertainty, no revenue, no income type of thing. And now I need to get across that to where I'm back on a strong positive revenue plane. So what I did was, leading up to that, was I refinanced a couple of my properties, right? I pulled out the equity that I had forced into them over the years. So in doing that, now I left my day job with a big chunk of money in my bank account, a business that I knew that I can grow, and there was the ability to do that. And then the rest was just betting on myself. So I made sure that I had 6-8 a year worth of expenses covered, because I said, you know what, if this entrepreneurship doesn't work out, I'll go find another job. I mean, I had the resume, right? I wasn't like 55 and just laid off and struggling to find another job. I got a wall full of certifications and degrees and all that. So I wasn't as worried about it. And then, there was some uncertainty about the benefits thing. And then I just said, you know what, I'm healthy enough. I'll deal with it.
Yeah. It's kind of what I get. It's funny. A lot of similarities. The same thing. The benefits was probably the last thing, like, whatever. I Cobra, if I need to for a bit, how much is it? I kind of swallowed that, like, all right, is what it is if I need to do that, and then move on from there. So no, I'm with you. At some point you just know, I think, Osborne calls it was it like a whisper, a quiet whisper that just tells you it's time to kind of roll. So I like that. Let me just, one more thing before we move into kind of the one sheet portion. I want to talk about the RV rental business. I know there's been a lot of interest around the tribe in this. A lot of guys touching you up. Hey, maybe we can save you some time. Maybe you can put on tape right now in this podcast enough for you to refer to anybody, like, hey, here's the answers to all your questions.
Yeah. So it's the RV rental business is very, I wouldn't say the opposite, but it's not typical of the way that I, pursue things, right? Generally from an investment, you do your due diligence and whatever. And for me, I'm a numbers kind of guy. So crunching numbers, doing the underwriting and that kind of thing, right? So I'm pretty good at sensing when there is an explosive growth in kind of an industry, and you just say, I just want to be in, right? And I can I'm smart enough and have the confidence enough that I'll figure things out. And it started with my wife and I getting into the RV and outdoors and camping world, I guess better part of 3 years. I mean, we did tent camping here and there, but we bought our first RV pretty much to be a mobile hotel room for operating our first self-storage facility. It was, things weren't going well with hiring people. We said, you know what, the hell with this. Let's just ultimately buy an RV. And it was an hour and a half away, put it at a campground. That'll be our hotel room, right? When I got exposed to it and all the different models and variations and sizes, I was really, I was fascinated. I said, you know what, some of these things are nicer than the apartments that we manage. So that got us excited. And then it was, let me buy something used and cheap because I don't know how much we're going to use it, right? And so it turned out that we used the hell out of it, right? We really enjoyed it. And especially during COVID, it turned out to be, great because it got my daughter, away from all the, the masks and, and campgrounds. It's naturally socially distanced and all that stuff. So fast forward to the end of last year. And I will say, well, probably even, yeah, I guess it was around there. So GoBro Kevin Miller, right? Just getting into talking to him, and I don't know how the RV and camping, came up, and he told me about his son doing really well in RV rentals. And I had already heard some of that from the RV dealer that I bought, the sales guy that I work with in Westchester. And so, basically, oh my God, the demand is through the roof and blah, 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 blah. So we decided that we wanted to do more distance traveling in our RV. So, and the way you do that is with a Class C motorhome or Class A or whatever. So we had a travel trailer, hooking that thing up at, getting it to where you're going, unhooking it. It's a real pain in the ass. It's a half hour, 45-minute process, right? The other motorhomes are more expensive. So, but we knew that in order for a rental business to be successful, you got to have vehicles that people want to rent. So I was able to convince my wife that let's buy a motorhome, and when we're not using it, we'll list it on RV Share or Outdoorsy. Okay, fine. So we put in an order. So now my brain, and this was, I don't know, now November or something for delivery, like February, March of this year. We actually got it like 6 weeks ago. In the meantime, and we'll probably touch on some of this, I started selling off some of my smaller multifamily properties. I wanted to transition more into self-storage and businesses in general, and acquiring businesses and bolting on ancillary stuff to what we have. For the RV stuff, I knew that number one is the big thing that you need is a place to store them, right? Guess what? I know somebody who has self-storage facilities, right? So I said that, right? So that part was easy. So check, we got that, right? And then it was, all right, I started to think, all right, if we're going to do this, it's better at economies of scale. I love economies of scale. So I convinced my wife, I said, you know what? Let's just go buy another one. And I said, mentally, I'm able to, I've done so much underwriting that I could kind of run through some numbers pretty quickly in my head. It's by no means, scientific at this point, but I said, all right, if I get this other RV, right, I'm going to pay cash for that, right? If I can rent it out in, 26 weeks a year, I went by conservative numbers. I leveraged the RV dealer because they did it for so many years. And so I kind of like picked his brain. And when you buy, a few $100,000 in RVs, they're going to give you, they're going to talk to you. So he kind of gave me like a framework, templates to use for private leasing. And with, knowing Airbnb and how popular that is, VRBO, it's like RV Share, Outdoorsy. It's like, all right, it's the same thing, except it's a depreciating asset. But if I buy it new, in 2 years, I'm going to get rid of the thing, because at that point, I'm going to operate it as you would any rental car business, right? So I went into it with that mentality. So we bought the second one, right? And I immediately threw it out there. I got a 3D Matterport camera. I have that for our property management business. So I was able to immediately put higher quality ads out on the platforms. And next thing you know, I got thousands of dollars worth of bookings. So now, as of where I'm sitting right now, it's probably somewhere, close to $20,000 in bookings. I spent a few $100s on, sewer, electric, water hookups and that kind of thing. And, it's under warranty, these things, I've got the insurance on it. So when I run the numbers that way, the way these things are reselling, it's like, it's if the worst case scenario, it's going to offset a family hobby of us traveling and doing that. Best case scenario is I make a solid return on my investment and got a bunch more write-offs. So that's how it's come about. I've now taken it to the next level. I have a website being developed. Had a conversation with a third-party platform to be able to have my own booking facilities. So I'll leverage the RV Share, Outdoorsy. I'll leverage them for general marketing, and then my own organic marketing through networks. Hey, you want to rent a RV? So combined, I feel like I'll have the reach, and then from there, it's just what other opportunities do I have? Rent. You can rent, bathroom supplies. You can rent, pots, pans, that I'm thinking about adding electric bikes, bike racks, canoes, kayaks, right? Because I have the facilities to store all this stuff. Quite honestly, if I buy it and it doesn't work out, I'll always do a test run. Let's test it out. I'll do it with one, right? In some cases, I said, hey, I can market it without it, right? And just say, hey, I have kayaks or electric bike. If you want to rent it, and then I set a price and somebody rents it, I'll go and buy it. Right. So it's like kind of like I'm not afraid. I've learned enough that I'm not afraid to take those kind of chances, but it's kind of, taking a calculated risk, if you will.
Makes sense. I like that. So you rather than just go out and spend a ton of money bringing on the kayaks, the electric bike rack or whatever, see if it's something that somebody's going to rent, and then okay, cool. I got to run to the store, honey. I'll be right back.
That's it, man.
Take care of this demand.
The beauty of that is having the means and facilities to be able to do that, right? I mean, if I was living paycheck to paycheck, where am I getting that? I mean, I know guys that we work with, contractors, whatever, that we work with regularly that, they couldn't come up with money to buy a pack of cigarettes if necessary. So,
right.
So it's having that, but also having the investor mentality that's I'm not going out and spending $100,000 on a new RV, and that money's just going to be flushed down the toilet. I'm going to take that and I'm going to generate $100,000, $200,000 from it, and then even be able to sell it from residual value. It's money making money.
100%. Last thing, I lie all the time when I say last question, so this might be my last question before we move on to the one sheet round. But why the shift from multifamily, small, whatever it is, into storage, or why storage generally? Why is that your space?
So in 2017, 2018, and so I quit the day job. 2018, we rebranded our business. Right before that, I had built a website. I had used a logo service, and it wasn't a brand. It wasn't a company that I looked at and said, you know what, I'm really proud of this. Right. So 2018, I said, all right, if we're going to do this and do it right, I want to rebrand. I want to make it more professional. So I engaged a third-party consultant, a team to actually do it, even though it was skills that I had, right? But I can't build totally custom websites, nor do I have the time or interest in doing that. So we bit the bullet and got a company to do it. And they built, I mean, if you look at, our logos and everything, really high quality. We were really impressed. In fact, we came away with it was like, wow, now we got to live up to this brand, right? Because at that time it was still just the two of us. And so we did that. I spent 2018 rebranding, right? And now we were looking at, okay, now we want to get into bigger apartment buildings. We did the small multifamily stuff. We wanted, we have the ability to raise some capital. I want to do bigger apartment buildings. Well, everything that came to me, when I started plugging in numbers, I was like, this is way overpriced. I can't generate the returns that my investors expect or that I expect with the cap rates and with the cost of these properties and everything. And so I said, at the same time, we were 10 years into a growth cycle. And from all the years at the Fed, I've known economic cycles are about 10 years, right? There's 10 years of expansion. And then there's a couple of years of recession. So I said, all right, this can't continue to go this far, right? Or this long. So we thought that there was a recession imminent, right? So I said, all right, well, the other thing that we need to do is we need to show our investment model full circle. What that means is, as a syndicator, I need my 20% return that I'm projecting 15 or whatever, generally speaking, you're going to only hit that when you exit a property, whether it's a refinance or some capital event, sell, whatever. So I started to think about how do I, position this? And I knew that there was a recession coming. I couldn't make bigger apartment buildings work, and I wanted to come full circle. So I started to do my research, right? I'm on Bigger Pockets and, reading a lot and consuming a lot of content. I ended up landing on one of two things: mobile home parks and self-storage, right? Mm. Mobile home parks intrigued me, but I felt that there was a lot more risk there. It's kind of like the lowest rung of home ownership type of thing. And if there's a recession, those people are impacted. But self-storage, the more I looked into it, I said, wait a minute, self-storage, now most people know is recession resistant, right? And during expansion times, people buy more stuff. The kayaks, the canoes, and whatever, need a place to store them. During contraction cycles, there's the 4 Ds: dislocation, divorce, death, and I forget the other D, right?
Downsizing.
Downsizing, exactly, right? So that comes into play. So and then you looked at what happened in 2007, 2008. Self-storage REITs were the only ones that generated positive returns, and you can factor in dividends and whatever. So when I put that together, I said, all right, self-storage is an industry right now that's still accessible. And even to this day, as I sit here now, we're buying from mom and pop shop owners, right? And these folks don't have a dozen facilities, and you can be outside of primary markets and access these value add projects, and I could generate the returns I need. So self-storage became attractive from that standpoint. It became attractive because I got generally concrete slabs, some paving, and steel buildings. I don't have toilets. I don't have, everything that comes around the roof issues. I don't have all of that you have with a residential space. Plus, my value add is mostly on the back end and infrastructure. I got to implement technology. Hello, I'm a technologist, right? So implementing technology is my wheelhouse, right? So implementing technology, automating the hell out of the facilities, improving management, operating self-storage facilities by using revenue management, kind of similar to where they in a hotel, it's seasonal, its prices are different on the weekend from the beginning. Plus, I don't have to get rid of tenants to create my value. So from that standpoint, it's like, wow, this is pretty good. So we acquired our first self-storage facility. I mean, we sold all the syndications. We presented the strategy to our investors, and they were intrigued enough to say, yeah, I'm in. And so we did. And so we sold from 2018. Last syndication we just sold end of 2020. There's a story behind why, but we had exited most of them. We recapitalized our investors, and then we just made the pivot to self-storage. We bought our first facility. It was a learning curve. I mean, you could pick up books and read all about it, but until you actually get into it and understand what it means to be a true operator and really driving that growth of the facility, it's not easy, right? So even the people that are going into self-storage now, that I laugh, and it's like everybody wants to be in self-storage, and then you look at the questions that they're asking, whatever. It's just like, if you're going to be your own operator, just because you're buying from a mom and pop shop owner, you might take over that facility and do exactly what they're doing. Afraid of raising rents, afraid of really driving, understanding that some occupancy is a good thing, right? So implementing not just the technology, but implementing all the capabilities of technology, right? We implement everything from online ordering, online reservations, online move-in, electronic signatures, online payments, auto payments, everything to make that tenant's life easy, right? It's the Amazon of services, right? Amazon makes you click one click and you order something, right? Well, how many times do you buy something because of that one click, right? If I implement that, regardless of what I'm doing, we even implement that in our property management business. I want to make it easy as possible for people to pay, and we've been able to successfully do that. I mean, we've increased the value of our properties. The self-storage facilities that we just bought, we closed on 3 in January, end of January. It was a $7.3 million deal. With our revenue management plan, we've already increased the value over $1 million. And that's incredible. In under 2 months. So
that's amazing. Congratulations on that. That's incredible. And only going to go up from there. So that's amazing. I like your point about.
We've been ultra aggressive with that because, we're talking about facilities that are 100% full. And we were like, we need to hit the spring market. We need some vacancies to get some of these rates higher. So let's be ultra aggressive. And we're like, okay, we're ultra aggressive and nobody's moved out.
No one's leaving.
So it's beautiful.
You see it in the apartment space a little bit too right now. I mean, just generally anything like this with prices going up, that there's not a lot of options out there. You think I'm pushing it a little bit, it's going to be sticker shock for somebody, but like we all do, you'll look around and you'll say, well, all right, I can clear out this unit and go over there for almost the same amount because I'm mad at the new owner, or I can just leave it there and pay the same, maybe even less than a facility up the street. So
yeah, and with any kind of investment, it's like, you got to be careful. consider who you're competing with, right? So if you like, you draw a quadrant, right? You draw a quadrant. You don't want to be in the upper left, upper right corner. You don't want to be in the lower left corner, right? You want to try to hover right in between there. And so you look at, area, property type, class, the different components and pricing. And then you kind of hover into the area where you can turn some dials and move higher into a quadrant. So it's kind of like being strategic from that standpoint. If you do that right, you don't have to, we're not competing with extra space and public storage. I'm not in those markets. I don't have to be in those markets, but the markets that I'm in, I'm just going to provide better service. I'm going to provide easier access and understand where the rates should be. And that's it.
The Amazon parallel is a good one. I like that a lot. All right, let's dive into the one sheet, the baseball card of your life, if you will. And we're going to go pillar by pillar, starting with horizontal income. So let's start there. What is your current horizontal income yearly, and how many lines is that?
So my horizontal income for 2020 was $620,000. I will say that a chunk of that was capital events and repositioning. I'm not afraid of one thing I've learned, and I had a feeling about it, and Pat Highban, he kind of reinforced it, is capital gains events are not necessarily bad, right? Mm-hmm. And the one thing is I before I went into selling my personal properties, I always thought about, do I need a 1031 exchange? In some cases that forces you to make decisions and trading out of a high priced asset into another one, right? So I made some strategic decisions last year. From a vertical income, it was negative last year, and that's and part of it's intentional, right? You keep your vertical income low enough, then your capital gains, you're not paying taxes on it. So being strategic there. So I purposely kept my vertical income low, and I still to this day continuously do that. I'm mostly in a big capital event type of mode, although some of that's going to change with some of the stuff we're doing in syndication. This year's it's probably going to be higher. I have those strategic conversations with my CPA early on the year. If you're listening, don't have it in December, have it early in January. Yeah. That's how you plan your year and recognize what big income events might I have. So this year, I'm expecting that horizontal to be somewhere between 750 and million, maybe more, and vertical 250 plus. That's the part. I want to keep that one down.
Yep, that makes perfect sense. What percentage of your business is in real estate versus maybe private companies or the businesses that you own? If that can you separate that?
I can, because everything I do, I look at it, and it's taken me a long time to learn that, right? So there's the real estate ownership piece where I have a stake in property as a syndication sponsor, general partnership, and even limited partners. So I have the ownership piece, but then there's the business that of each is its own business. So I have a property management company, right? I have my syndication business, consultation business. I have my RV rental business there, and working on another project on creating a coaching platform. So all that to say is I consider those businesses, and the real estate I own is the actual self-storage facilities. It's 4 going on 6 facilities. We're going to close on a couple next month. And I'm both the general partner and limited partner in those. And then otherwise, I don't consider, other investments in, actually I'm in other businesses, like one is called Fortitude Ranch. I'll plug that. It's a survival community business that in good times is kind of like a country club membership type of destination. There's a few locations across the US, and in bad times it becomes a survival community. I did that more of the pandemic kind of shocked me and said, all right, well, how prepared am I when you go to the store and you can't even find toilet paper, right? Mm-hmm. That scared me. So that's both a business investment. I'm on the board of the company now, as well as there's a real estate component to that. So I have separated them out, and I treat all of my businesses as a business in terms of balance sheets, profit and loss, and even, if you have rental properties, just the management of that really needs to be contained that way. I have equities, I have decent amount of crypto. If you're, on the IRS side, I don't own any of that, but so and then from there, hard assets. I have my RVs, they're, depreciating assets, but anything that is worth something, I consider, I have even foreign currency. So
Sure.
Quite a collection of things.
Yes, you do. Yeah, you're a Renaissance man. The survival business is a whole other podcast. That would be interesting to get into. So that's awesome. Let's switch over to age-defying health. So what is your current weight and body fat percentage?
So this is cool, right? So my weight is about 160 or so. I'm 6 foot tall. So generally I've always been on the thin side, right? But I've been as high as 180, 190. But I've been kind of teetering on, been really playing with my diet this year. And I went from a practicing wannabe vegan to in keto diet, right? And that change happened in Tahoe, right? So I had talked to a bunch of people that were doing really well as a vegan. I said, all right, let me, I've always been a carnivore. I said, let me try that. And so we kind of cleaned the house out of meat. And so I did the vegan thing. But what I found is I was continuously drawn to meat-like replacements, and it was making me miserable. And then go fast forward to Tahoe, and Gary Taub's talk on, he really made a compelling argument for a case against sugar. And I've known this because anytime I wanted to lose, belly inches, it's always been just eliminate carbs, right? Just get rid of the bread, the sugar. And so that's pretty easy for me. So I've been doing really well on this diet. I've probably burned 5% body fat in the last month or so. Right now I'm wearing some tactical pants that I bought years ago that I liked them so much. I bought a half a dozen pairs, and then I outgrew the waistline. So I'm back wearing them. So my body fat is probably, I don't know, 15, 17%. My goal for the year is to get it single digits.
Wow, man. That's amazing. And 5% in 30 days ish.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I can burn pretty good. I've got my Bowflex Velocore bike. And so,
your brand, you said it at the beginning, your personal brand is, I made a decision. that should be on your headstone one day. I made a decision, because that's the hard part for you. And once you do, it sounds like, you're locked in.
That's it. Yep.
That's very cool. All right. So you talked about keto. How about exercise? What do you do with exercise?
So over the years, I've always thought, I always thought that it was if I wanted to bulk up, it's always, go to the gym and spend an hour. And then last year with my GoPod, we decided we were going to have a challenge of doing 1,000 push-ups in between our GoPod meetings. And that was every 2 weeks. So it was 1,000, essentially 500 push-ups a week. Mm-hmm. And I was in Cape May for the most of last summer, and I started to do just push-ups. Mm. And what I noticed was holy hell, I feel stronger. I don't have to spend an hour in the gym. And so I started to do some more research in just general calisthenics. And what I found is that for my body type, for my schedule, push-ups, dips, I'm going to be incorporating pull-ups, and cardio is really all I need. And as I've learned more about calisthenics and I'd rather be the more flexible, naturally strong guy than big, bulky. because when I try to bulk up, I got to eat a ridiculous amount of food. So, and it doesn't really work well with my lifestyle and being fast. So I kind of found a real sweet spot right now. I'm pretty happy with it. Yeah. So yeah, that's where I'm at exercise wise.
It's amazing. Dips, push-ups, pull-ups, like those. I've heard a lot of people like Kevin Hart. I remember hearing him say, if I could do anything, if I do nothing else but, it would be push-ups, pull-ups, dips, sit-ups, that kind of thing. So,
well, if you remember, I mean, you remember Herschel Walker. I mean,
yeah.
Herschel Walker, he was like a specimen, and they used to say that that's what he did. And you think, you know what? He's you know, that's an oddball. I challenge anybody. You do it for 60 days, 90 days. You're straight push-up. I don't care if you to do anything else because it incorporates your shoulders, it incorporates your gut, it incorporates your arms. I mean, you could vary the push-ups. And so for me, it's like, holy shit, I found the nirvana of the exercise. I don't have to go to the gym. You know, why? So it's awesome.
That is awesome. Very good. I might have to implement that. You just stoked the challenge in my mind. So we talked a little bit about your family, wife, daughter. Tell me a little bit more about them. What does your wife do now? What's her role, if any, in the business?
So, we're founding partner and she's COO. She's also chief of staff. So she's the kind of started to realize that I'm definitely operating at a visionary level, and she's more of a meats and potatoes, what do I have to do type of person. So we've kind of morphed into that model where she's handling the execution and I'm operating at a higher level. She's interesting enough, a classically trained opera singer. She moved from Los Angeles to Philadelphia on an opera contract, and then when she realized that the music industry doesn't pay, like literally doesn't pay. I mean, they had contracts that didn't get paid on. She got a day job working at the Fed. She eventually got into IT project management. So we've been married since 2014. My little girl and she still sings now. You could find her at Bryn Mawr Presbyterian Church. That's where she's singing now, just choir mostly. And my daughter Stella, she just turned 4. She's a character. She's a great blend of my wife and I. Our parenting philosophy is more of what I've learned recently is unteaching, right? And it's kind of like letting her find her way and instilling good values, behaviors, being polite, respectful, and letting her learn her way. And she's awesome. I mean, she's the purpose for everything now. And you have kids, it's just magical. And so, that's
my life and priorities definitely shifted, maybe not knowingly, but if you track back, it coincides almost exactly with the birth of my first son, 5-6 years ago. So I'm with you on that. And my wife and I have been talking a lot about the sort of Acton Academy path, that sort of thing, as opposed to traditional education. We're not home educators. We don't have the patience for it. But to do something other than where kids get to learn, from what I understand, at their own pace. And we had this discussion in the Dad's Micro Tribe, what you run, or that discussion is ongoing with, is this the right route? How does it work and all that? So very, very cool.
And we've made the decision. I mean, we were kind of kicking the tires around it, and kind of COVID solidified it, right? And what I mean by that is what we saw, what kids were being exposed to, or what happened with school, like really, a lot of kids got set back a year from this whole Zoom, they couldn't get this thing under control. And it really just solidified. I don't want her to have a traditional education, because now, I don't want to get into, anything political or anything, but it's more of, they don't teach fundamental things. They don't teach investing. They don't teach accounting. They don't teach the things that you and I know that we need to really excel in life. It teaches you the status quo, and you join this lacrosse and go through this, and you go to college and whatever. They don't teach the things that you need. So we decided that we're going to take matters into our own hands, whether it's Acton Academy, homeschooling, unschooling. We're still figuring out what that is, and we want to travel. So we're learning from a lot of GoBros and what their models are, and I'm about, let's pick the best of it and we'll figure it out.
Roll with it. I like it. All right, contribution. What is your give back ratio?
So my give back ratio is hovering about 10%, and historically it was. I don't know that I counted all of what I now believe is giving back, right? It's one thing to donate money, and I've always done that, but giving money is not it's not as tangent, right? It's not, you can't see, touch, feel the results. So I've done big fundraisers when I worked at the Fed. We always used to have, adopt families for Christmas. So I've always wanted to help. But now it's more than just what we consider people in need, right? Whether it's poor, disability, whatever. Now it's also helping lift people up. I consider what you do emerge. I mean, your give ratio is sick, right?
That's true. I like that. Yeah, good point.
So you can't, what you're doing and helping and giving back. It's not a commercial of kids with starving to death, right? It's what are you contributing to better the world around you, and so from that standpoint, whether it's helping my neighbors and just being out there. I'm all about it. And so we participate in charities. We're always trying to find what else can we do. But in many cases, a lot of it is trying to help our peers. I mean, I look at it just even our syndication business. We're exposing people to investments that they otherwise might not get on their own. So I say, that's philanthropic. That's it. We've also recently brought in a housekeeper, if you will. And so we've got her kind of collecting, say, okay, I'm okay with, if I bought something, I'm not going to put it in the trash, but if I donate it, okay, I'll donate it. It's going to go to a better cause. So it's kind of being more holistic in how I view that.
I like that. That's a great point, though. There is more to, and that's why I think the hours contributed is just one element of, it's not just the money contributed, but hours contributed, and how you define that is really individual. So I like that a lot. Let's switch over real quick. Who's in your GoPod and how often do you meet?
So my GoPod is Kyle Stacy, Adam Labar, Marcelo Munoz. And it's interesting because we've always met at least every 2 weeks, but we recently, well, I shouldn't say recent now, it's been a while. We actually started a business together, right? And I'll plug it here. It's called Prosperity Coaching Collective. And what it is we are building a platform of what we're calling essentially like a coach marketplace. And so as someone who's looking to pick the brain or get a different level of education can go to this marketplace. See, I'm interested in sales skills, right? That might be Kyle. I'm interested in syndicating apartment buildings, and that's Adam. I'm interested in syndicating self-storage. Mindset can be any of us. Leaving W-2 can be any of us. I'm interested in building international business. That's Marcelo. So we're fix and flip. That's also Marcelo. So we're building this platform together, and it really just came out of our interest in wanting to teach and educate. And so now our GoPod meetings are business oriented, right? We're working with the teams to kind of create the website and the entire platform. So we use WhatsApp. We connect regularly on that. So it's kind of our little, we've developed quite a little brotherhood.
That's cool. You're not the first. That's neat to hear. There's been a few pods. My pod keeps talking about maybe trying to pull resources and invest in something passively, or maybe take an apartment building down together or whatever. But I know Luther Hagen's pod with Shane Swanberg and a few others, Nigel Geisinger, they recently bought like an RV park or mobile home park plus a multifamily. It's neat to see the pods doing what you just described. That's I talk to a lot of people about maybe being in GoBundance, and they ask what the pod experience is. And this is what I try to explain. It's like, it's really up to you, but it goes from great conversations all the way up to business partners, right? That's what it boils down to.
And what's awesome about it is how it basically came about was we were having lunch together, and it was like, oh, I'm doing some coaching. I'm doing some coaching. It's like, wait a minute. We're all doing similar things. We're all business owners. Why don't we, once you just learn the right structure and things that you need for a business, then it's kind of like, well, let's just start another one. That's the whole serial entrepreneur type of thing, right?
I love it. I've taken like a half page of notes here. on stuff from this. I'm dead serious. This is really, really fascinating. I mean, we've talked, but this has been cool for me. So thank you for humoring me and all my questions. We'll bring it home with a question from the GoBundance card game. It's the King of Diamonds, the random question. I didn't reveal this to you earlier, so here it comes. Do you think you will outlive most others your age, and why?
Now I'm going to get philosophical on you.
Hit me.
I don't look at it as the short answer is no. I'm going to outlive most people because how I define life, right, is not based on an age, right? It's when I'm dead and buried, right? And in some cases, if I died today, I will have felt that I lived a life that was 20 years into the future, right? Just from my experiences, I'm trying to absorb as much as possible. So from an actual health standpoint, I'm getting better. So I feel like I'm not even halfway through life. I'm 45 years old. But I also am I'm working to make the most of every year. And I will work, and I work hard at that. Not hard as in stupid, but hard as in smart, to experience life in the fullest. And so from that standpoint, I'm pretty confident that I'm going to outlive a lot of people, even if they die 20 years later than me.
That's amazing. I like that. That's not overly philosophical. That's actually a great, great way to bring this home. Sergio, where can people learn more about you, your businesses, anything you want to direct people to? Why don't you go ahead and let folks know?
So H-Fire Holdings is our website. Hearthfire Holdings, our company. You could find me on LinkedIn. My last name is Altomare. I don't know if that'll be in the show notes. Connect with me on LinkedIn. You can shoot me an email, Sergio@hfireholdings.com. I always like to connect and chat with people. Anything I can be of help with, anything that you can help me with, I'm always interested in that. To me, your network can never be too big. And the tribe, the brotherhood that we have, I mean, connected and plugged into 400 some guys. I mean, it's like being plugged into the Matrix. Like, holy cow, right? So it's awesome. So, look me up, connect with me on Facebook. Just if you are going to connect, don't immediately try and sell me anything, because I will cut that off immediately. So that's it.
Yeah, makes sense. I feel the same way. So, man, I appreciate this. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming in today. For those of you listening, make sure to subscribe, give us a rating and review, and share this with somebody if you feel as though they could use the information that Sergio shared today. It was a lot. It was a lot of great stuff. So thanks to you, Sergio. Thanks to everybody. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for the opportunity, Jamie. We'll talk soon, brother. Take care, everybody.
Okay. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let us know down in the comments, and make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you can be informed on the next episode and other content right here on this channel. Thank you.